Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoy these videos, please be sure to like and click subscribe, and you'll be notified of future videos when they become available. I want to introduce you to a beautiful young woman, Pamela Coleman Smith. She's best known for designing and illustrating the Rider-Waite, and I'm going to add her last name, Smith cards. This deck and her artwork brought tarot out to the masses. She is absolutely an unconventional rebel woman, a bohemian artist who traveled the world, rubbed elbows with many people like Bram Stoker and William Butler Yeats. Her full name is Pamela Coleman Smith, and her parents were Charles Edward Smith and Corinne Coleman. She was born February 16th of 1878 in Pimlico, London, England. She died September 18th, 1951 in Bude, Cornwall, England. She was best known for her design artwork for the Rider-Waite-Smith cards, illustrated, and also her illustrated works with Stoker and Yeats, and she also wrote and illustrated her own books. There is a book on her life by Stuart Kaplan, and I haven't gotten this book, but it looks like it would be very interesting. So who is this mysterious woman? She was born in London, and she spent her childhood in Manchester and Jamaica with her parents. Smith was biracial. Her mother was Jamaican, and her father was a white American. As a teenager, she was named Pixie and attended art school in New York City at the Pratt Institute. After her mother passed away in 1896, Smith left Pratt without graduating to join a traveling theater group and lead somewhat of a nomadic life. In addition to working on stage, she also developed the reputation as being a skilled costume and set designer. During the early part of the 20th century, this was an unusual occupation for a young single woman. She was very active in the women's suffrage movement in the turn of the century. And this is very interesting, the poster that she did. A bird in the hand is worth two mockingbirds in the bush. A and LG, if you drop the conciliation bill, we may do something for you in the dim and speculative future. So, there is little known about her romantic life. She never married or had children. It's certainly possible that she could have preferred women. Scholars have speculated about her relationship with her housemate, Nora Lake, as well as Smith's close friend, actress Edith Craig, who was definitely a lesbian. Smith surrounded herself with creative and very intelligent people, and they valued her passion for art and her exotic appearance, as well as her free spirit. She developed a stylized book that soon put her in high demand as an illustrator, and some of her most popular drawings were utilized in the works of Bram Stoker and William Butler Yeats. In addition, she wrote and illustrated her own books, including a collection of Jamaican folk tales called Anansi Stories. According to Diantha London Potts, Smith became known for her miniature theatrical pieces inspired by Jamaican folklore and her illustrations, which helped her create a name for herself within the artist circles in New York and abroad. She became a sought-after illustrator and a buzz-worthy figure in her community. In 1907, photographer and art promoter Alfred Stieglitz gave Smith an exhibition space for a collection of her paintings. She was the first painter to have her work exhibited in his gallery, as he primarily focused on the new art form of photography. In her early work with William Yeats, she illustrated a book of his verses, which would prove to be a catalyst for some changes in Smith's life. In 1901, he introduced her to friends in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and at some point in her Golden Dawn experience, she met the poet and mystic Edward Waite. Around 1909, Waite commissioned Smith to do the artwork for a new tarot deck he was interested in creating. Waite wanted to see a tarot deck in which every card was illustrated, which was something completely new. Up until this point throughout history of the tarot, the deck was primarily had illustrations only on the major arcana and sometimes the court cards. The only known example of a fully illustrated deck up until this point was Solabusca deck commissioned by wealthy Milanese family in the 1490s. Waite suggested Smith use Solabusca for her inspiration, and there are many similarities in the symbolism between the two decks. She was the first artist to use characters as a representative of images in the lower cards, which is the minor arcana. She showed groups of cups, coins, wands, or swords, and she worked human beings into the mix and created a rich tapestry of occult symbolism that set gold standard for modern tarot decks. Her original images were created using Smith's preferred medium of gouache, a type of opaque watercolor with natural pigments and a binding agent, often found in advertising illustrations. The resulting collection, 78 astonishing cards published by Rider & Sons and sold for a whopping 6 shillings as the first mass market tarot deck. Thanks to the publisher and Ed Waite, the deck became known commercially as the Rider-Waite deck, leaving out her name completely. 2 years after creating this amazing tarot deck images, Smith converted to Catholicism, and a decade or so later, she used money from an inheritance to open a home up for priests in Cornwall, England. And although she continued to produce illustrations, including several for the war effort during World War II, Smith didn't make any money from her work and never earned any royalties for her tarot images. And although her artwork was popular, she never gained mass commercial success, died penniless in Cornwall in 1951. Which is very tragic, but the women back then simply weren't paid for their talents. This, by the way, is a painting because she could see music, and this is a painting of how music appeared to her as a visual. She also was a set designer, so this is also one of her illustrations. And of course, this is her with Ed Smith. So this woman was quite the rebel, and I found it very interesting to do some numerology on her. And of course, those of you that know me, some of my videos, I like to throw numerology into the mix. So what I look for when I do numbers is I put pink circles above things that drew my attention. For one thing, she has 2 A's in her first name, and she's got a 7 for her first letter of her name. A 7 makes her spiritual and a mystic, and the 1s make her a leader. So she was definitely a leader in her field. I mean, she didn't really care what people thought about her. She marched forward and did her own thing and lived a very inspiring life. She also has an M in her first name, an M in her middle name or one of her last names, and an M in her other last name. So she's got 3 M's, and M's are about structure, having, structure, and, they can be planned travel and businesses. And of course, she grew up in a field with her parents being had a very structured life for her education. She was born on February 16th, the 6 and 1 are 7. Again, there's another spiritual combined with the 2 of the month is intuitive. So she would use her intuitive gifts. 9s are the teacher. She would want to teach and inspire others through compassion. She had a double 8 in her year of birth and a double 1. And to me, 8s are about strength and power. Her life path is a 6, meaning she was to be a leader in the spiritual realm and provide her work as a teacher to teach others and help others. That was her life path, is inspiring others. Of course, I had to look at her address, which was 28, which is a 1, once again, showing leadership. She's got 1s here, 1s here, 1s here, a 1 in her day of birth, and a 1 in her year. Now, she passed away 9, which is endings, on the 9th day, which is endings, of 1951. So she passed away during a period of time that was a 9. She was born an only child, and with all of the 1s in here and all of the 7s that we find, and her 7 being her core number, we can see between the 7 and the 1, those are the 2 kind of loneliest numbers. So she definitely was born for a very specific path to help others. So that's her numerology. And then I like to use the steampunk tarot deck in order to communicate with the deceased. And so I'm always amazed when they come through. So I would like to ask Pamela Coleman Smith, would you please come through at this time and maybe give a message for the people? And of course, she comes through with a beautiful ace of Four of Pentacles, I mean. And the Four of Pentacles in the steampunk is her giving a gift to people. Like she shows the books on the shelf. She's very proud of the books that she wrote, and it was her life to give to others. Now, this is also a symbol that it would have been nice if she would have had some money handed to her during her life, because no one shared any money for the work she did. She was just supposed to donate her talents, and so she died penniless, which is very sad. Now, she also said she was some kind of a hermit life, like she lived a hermit lifestyle. And of course, we know she never married, and she traveled around quite a bit. And she is kind of showing us that even though she was shining a light to the world, she was inside somewhat of a lonely person. But you can see by her picture, she is just cuter than cute. I mean, and look at how she dresses. I mean, what a beautiful young lady she was. So the Hermit card, of course, is a 9. And of course, she's, is really tuned into the 9, because that's her personality, the 9 of everyday life. And of course, she died in the 9th month on the 9th day. And then the moon talks about deception. So she wants to talk, she's off the world now, but she sends the moon that there's a lot of deception going on. And so I'd like to turn to her tarot cards for the rest of this and find out. I'm going to use her tarot cards that she designed, the Universal Weight. This is the same artwork as her, just a little bit different colors. And say, what would you like to talk about the deception that's going on? Are you talking about in the world of the tarot cards? Is there deception? So there's a lot of burdens right now. So there's a lot of burdens on people. And she understands that. And she's talking spiritual burdens here, because it's the Wands card. And the Queen of Pentacles means that there's a lot of fear here, and people need to focus. They need to focus more. They need, and this also represents there's too many people staring at their phone, is what I think this is too. They're not paying attention to what's going on in the world. She was extremely intelligent, extremely well educated. And here she is. She's telling us to use the spiritual knowledge that we can gain if we focus our attention on learning these spiritual gifts, or using these cards in order to help us on physical life to master our lives, to become the master of our own lives. This is one of her main things. And I said, do you like the new tarot decks that are coming out with the different artwork? There's so many now. And this is all about creativity. So this is where she's loving the creativity. But she said sometimes the teachings are lost. See how they're not always pursuing the hidden teachings within. And she kept the teachings in the artwork. She kept the original teachings in with her artwork. Some of the other decks are branching off, and although they're beautiful and wonderful, they've lost a little bit of the teachings, spiritual teachings, because that's the Wands. And then, of course, we have mastership. Like she said the tarot was kind of a dominated male type of system. It was dominated. Of course, we have it next to the Emperor, but the King of Wands meant that it was a male-dominated system for a long time. And do you think that's changed, Pamela? Do you think that it's now more feminine? And she's like, well, a lot is being stolen away. A lot is being stolen away of the ancient knowledge. They're keeping a lot of things hidden. This is corruption. So what can women do with your tarot now to gain what we say more power for the women? Is there anything the women can do with your power? And that she's like, see things from a different perspective. And this is kind of waiting, like it's a suspension, like kind of wait to see where things are going. And it's also the card about having faith that being different is okay. And here it is, picking up your own sword and carving your own life your own way. This is a card about being very independent and be good, be acceptable of who you are in the moment, of every moment. And she believes that you can conquer anything you want. That, and then also because this is spiritual, she wants you to know that utilizing different knowledge and different ways of viewing the cards will help you conquer any obstacle in your life. You can conquer anything. And I'm sure it goes way beyond just tarot and to other realms. But her deck is used to help people through difficult times. And see, you can see that sometimes people, they just don't have the strength. They just don't think they have the strength or resilience to go on. And here comes someone to help them. That's the whole mission of her cards, is to help people from a difficult situation see things, or get some help for the big things that hit them, the big belief systems and how people are trapped and stuck nowadays. And so what advice do you offer using your own cards to these people who are stuck like this? And she's like, sometimes you have to end the way of how you're thinking, even what you desire. Roses are desires. Sometimes you have to realize that all the drama going around you, that it's just spurring you on to something else that you love and enjoy. The Death card means going down a new path. And of course, then we have the Fool, literally packing things up, which if she's indicating this is beliefs, then carry with you a few beliefs, but don't be bogged down with beliefs that don't serve you. Be more light-hearted, more adventurous, have an adventurous spirit. And the Fool develops a passion, is passionate, and then you will be successful. And she said, strive for your own success, not to necessarily be admired by others, but strive for what your definition of success is, and that only you need to admire yourself. You don't have to have, a victory parade. But she said, strive to be successful your own way. Carve out a life for you that is successful your way. Do it your way, regardless of what the masses, She's like, this is like rise above the masses. And if you notice, he's wearing a wreath, and there's a victory wreath here. So she's giving a very important message about the crown chakra. And of course, we have a priest here, which is very interesting. And the other thing I notice is the priest has some kind of marking on his hand. Trying to see that marking? Could be a cross, right? Could be a cross. And then there's a marking on the devil, on the hand of the devil, which I found interesting. So we can really thank Pamela for putting the artwork into this that we all use. And of course, she's celebrating the women. She's like, her friends and her are all celebrating. She's very, very happy that we have communicated with her today. She'll continue to work with you and inspire you through the artwork. And she also, Pamela, would you encourage people who are designing their own decks, and that you would give them, inspiration for doing their own decks? Look at that. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a million different ways to do the tarot decks, and the main thing is to be happy. She would be happy too. This is the Nine of Cups, and this is happiness. And she's ending. I feel like her energy is leaving now. And I just want to thank her for coming in. I want to thank you for listening to this. I hope that this inspires you, and that maybe you'll realize how important her work was, and you'll take a moment to give thanks to her. And, Ed Waite too, because he did want the tarot cards to be put out to the masses. So the two of them together worked, and I think we should be thankful for them and the publisher, and continue to keep her work alive. Thank you very much for listening today.